Welcome to All the Stitches. My name is Colleen and I'm coming to you from the Lakes region of New Hampshire in the United States. This is a show about my quilting, knitting, needle arts, and crafts of all kinds. But today I'm going to talk to you strictly about needlework. Just a short background, I promise it won't be long, just to let you know how I started down this path. My mother, when I was really young, bought me those little bureau scarves and a few little strands of embroidery. And I loved stitching those. It started a whole love of embroidery and crafts, and probably led to bigger and better things like quilting and knitting and all those things. But I do a lot of counted cross stitch, embroidery, combining those things into quilts, also needlepoint, whatever else comes along that I might be interested in doing. This show today is about whips, about finishes, and about really celebrating my love of needlework. So first, I want to show you something. I didn't make it, but I really think you'll enjoy seeing it, particularly with all the interest in floss tube and all the people creating these gorgeous samplers on linen and so forth. I think you might enjoy seeing this, so I want to share this with you. Okay, well, there's too much glare. I was hoping to be able to show you an antique sampler, but the light in the room is glaring too much. But I'm going to put up a picture, a still picture of this sampler, so you can get a good look at it. As you can see on the screen, it's a sampler made by Mary Huggins. It says sampler aged 9 years in the center. And it says Sheffield, February 18th, 1852 or 62. I can't quite make it out. Up at the top, just under the alphabet, it says, there's a small alphabet, some numbers, and then it says life is short. She was a wise 9-year-old. On the left-hand side, as you look at it, it says, count that day lost, whose low descending sun. You go to the right, and it says, views from thy hand, no worthy action done. I bought this sampler at an auction, an antique auction, many years ago, and I just treasured it. And I finally became curious about Mary Huggins. And I sent a photo of the sampler to Country Living magazine. You know, they do that, what is it and what is it worth column. They put it in the magazine in March of 2005, in case you're looking for it. And, they don't do a full appraisal on it. They just give you something basic, and obviously they don't see it. They said to determine if it's English or American, to remove it from the frame, and they go on about the, if it has a strip of blue linen at the salvage, then most likely it's English. I did that, but the picture, I can get kind of a look at it. Oh, the linen sampler ends right under the frame, so they didn't wrap it around the back. So it wasn't helpful. But I did a little research on Mary Huggins. I don't know, Sheffield could be anywhere. If it's in the U.S., there are multiple towns all over the place named by the name of Sheffield. It could be the U.K., no idea. I did try to do an ancestry search, and I didn't really, there were possibilities, but I really have no idea. I'd love to know, but I think it's one of those mysteries. But anyway, all of you people who do that kind of fine counted cross stitch, do you know, is there someone or an individual or a company or a computer program that might take an antique sampler and graph it out? If you know of some service like that, please let me know. Please leave a comment below. After having seen that, you can't compete with that. But just so you know what kind of needlework that I probably enjoy more than anything is combining embroidery or cross stitch with quilting. But this little quilt is, I call it the camp quilt. And it's a pattern by Bare Roots. Oh, I love their pattern so much. If you've ever, check them out if you haven't seen them. And this I made in 2018. But I pecked away at those embroidery blocks over a long period of time and was just so happy and delighted to get them into a quilt. About a year and a half ago, I had a knee surgery, and I knew I wouldn't be able to sit at a sewing machine and maybe not be able to concentrate very well. So I'd gone a long time without doing any kind of cross stitch, and I finally decided that would be a really great project to do when in those times between exercises that I could just sit and stitch. So I went with a simple pattern. I saw Lori Holt's Quilter's Cottage. And I just thought, how perfect for me, entering back into counted cross-stitch world, and there's quilts on the line. I mean, hello, it has my name on it, basically. So I finished this up very quickly. I finished it quickly because it's a 10-count cloth. 10 count. You know, people who do linen work are probably rolling your eyes. But look at how cute that came out. And she, if I do say so myself, it wasn't my pattern, so I can say that. I just love Lori's simple, very charming designs. And her cloth that came with this, I believe it was a kit. And you know that's 6 strands of floss. I've never worked with 6 strands at a time, but because of the 10 count, I think it worked out great. Her 10 count cloth is called Vintage Cloth by Zweigart. And it's really, at first I thought, what the heck, this is not counted cross-stitch cloth. It has such a nice soft drape, and it's not stiff like a lot of Aida cloths. So I enjoyed working with this, and I have to say I bought some more. I bought some more in white just in case there was something else I wanted to do with it. But that is the Quilter's Cottage. Last Christmas I finished up a project that I had started probably a couple of years before. When I put down my kind of cross stitch, I thought I just wasn't seeing things very well. Then I got new glasses. It was a whole world opened up to me. But I finished this cute little design. In case you can't see, it says flakes fall, home fires call, light so bright, winter night. I loved it. So once I was finished with this, I thought, well, how much framing can you do? How many framed items can you put up on the wall? So I said, well, this is a good opportunity to combine my quilting with the counted cross stitch. So I just built a little quilt around it. The center of it is not quilted, but I quilted around, or I did a machine stitch around here, all around, and added little borders in the binding, and it's a little mini quilt. But I love this. I have a fall pattern that I purchased at the same time, and I'm now, with the cooler weather coming in, I'm itching to get started on that. And then what I thought of as my success with the counted cross stitch pattern, I saw this, and I had to do that. Oh, I love moose so much. And this goes really well in my home. I bought this pattern and I put it in a drawer and I said, someday I'll do that. But I had so many other things to do. And then something sad happened. I was going somewhere and I saw all kinds of traffic jam, and all of a sudden I realized a poor moose, a beautiful moose with big antlers, had been hit by a car. Now the person was okay, but the moose wasn't, and it broke my heart. And I came home brokenhearted, and I pulled out this counted cross stitch kit, and I said, I need to make this in memory of that poor moose who he haunted me because the poor fellow, they're so majestic. But here he is, my welcome moose, in memory of that poor fellow. I really enjoyed it. This I think even further sparked my love of counted cross stitch, and I feel like I am back and I am going to go ahead and see what other things I can make. I have framed it, but it's not finished in the back. I need to finish it up. So the counted cross stitch became a thing. And in between the quilting and the knitting and everything else, what I tried to do is set aside an hour, maybe 2 at the most a day at a certain time, and that's my stitching time. So that's worked so far, and hopefully that keeps up. But in July, I heard about Jolly July, and I thought, whoa, that's a great idea. Because come Christmas time, and there's so often you say, oh, I wished I had made that, Christmas thing, and you just never got to it. So very excited that I did a couple of Jolly July projects. First one being a Prairie Schooler Santa. If you do counted cross stitch, you're familiar, you know all about Prairie Schooler Santas. And I had done one back in the 80s that I would show you, but it's tucked away with all the Christmas things. I was hooked. I was rehooked, shall we say. And I was delighted to find all these patterns still out there. They're done yearly. There's a new Santa every year. I can't tell you what year these are. I didn't mark it down, but I love this guy. I love the little reindeer friend he has. And so that's done. I did these on Aida. I did these, nothing fancy. I happened to have 14 count Aida in oatmeal. And that works for me for these because I really like the size of these. These turn out to be 5 by 7 if you use the 14 count. And I use, being inexperienced now with cross stitch, I use 2 strands. And I think it's okay. It's not complete coverage. I don't mind that. I really don't mind that very much. It's, maybe a little bit of oatmeal fleck comes out on it, but I really am okay with it. So I did this guy. And then, because I couldn't stop, and because it was still July, so I had to keep up with Jolly July, then I made this one. The Sewing Santa. I did the same thing here with 14 count Aida and oatmeal, and I just used DMC threads that I had. I didn't even need to buy anything. But I love this Sewing Santa. And of course I do. He's sewing. But then I've gone on and I'm working now. I didn't bring it up with me, but I'm working on the Knitting Santa. And it's so cute. It has little knitted socks and knitting needles all around it. So I'll keep going with those. But you know what's happened? It's hard to stop. I just want to make all these Santas now. And I ordered a couple more. They come in these little cards, and we have the sheep. I love that one, of course. We have the clock Santa. We have the snowman and bunny Santa. What's this? Oh, the more bunnies in the North Pole Santa. Well, that's the one I made. That was 2016. And that was the sewing one, 2006. So I've been collecting them a while. And there was another one. I know there was a quilting Santa, but I couldn't find it. And then I ended up finding, apparently they publish some of them in groups after a while. So I was able to find this one that does have a quilting Santa on it. So I am all set for a while. I don't think I'm going to put all these things in small frames. I seriously think I might just make a small quilt or a small wall hanging when I have a bunch of them done. It might be like a long row of them, and have some pretty matching fabric around the edges. I think I might like that better than all these small pictures, because how many nails can you put in the wall? My husband won't like that very much if I did that. But we'll see on that. But in the meantime, I'm just having so much fun stitching them. When I was going through my projects to do this show, I came across a few other things that to be honest with you, I'd forgotten about them. But I pulled out my little project bag, and I know many people have made these project bags with the vinyl window. My quilt group had gotten together to make these, so I was really thrilled that it just works out great for needlework. You put a little zipper here and a zipper up here. And for the back, I had this quilt block that I'd made a while back. It was a little workshop, and I didn't do anything further with it. So I said, well, I just machine quilted it and made the back. But what a great little thing. We put little handles on the top. Well, there's some other stuff in here that is of no interest because it just hasn't been started yet. But I found my little treasure in there. I found this. It was a little kit that I purchased in Ireland many years ago. And it's kind of strange and different. It's just printed black, and it comes with a few little threads. And what you're supposed to do is just fill in little stitches here and there, things like in the flowers, in the greenery. You just put little lazy daisy stitches and things like that. But I started to do that, and then I thought it needed a little more color, so I took colored pencils and I colored these mountains in and the hills, and I blended it a little bit. I'm not quite sure about that success. Now, I haven't finished stitching this. I do have a lot more color to bring in with these little bushes and shrubs. But, it just, when I saw this, it reminded me so much of Ireland, and it was really, especially back then, there were just sheep everywhere. So, and also there were still little Irish cottages and with thatch roofs that fell in and so forth. So I brought this home, and then how in the world did I ever forget about it? So I will continue this because it's such a good memory. I saw that online, that Crabapple Hill, I saw that she was running an Instagram stitch along, February 2019 stitch along. What she did, gave you instructions about transferring these little 1-inch squares onto fabric, and then gave instructions about coloring with colored pencils and blending and so forth, and then embroidering over them. Well, I love this idea. And they were so pretty. What she was doing was so pretty. She gave you embroidery stitch guidebook and everything. So I was off and running. But I decided, because I like to make things more difficult for myself, I decided to make them 2 inches instead of 1. Because I thought 1 would be a little bit fussy. So I'm not sure. I like the way they look. But it did cause some problems because it was, sometimes I couldn't quite follow the instructions. I had to add more because the block was a little too big. Now, I am not finished with this, but it is all colored in. It's on a nice white linen. And I did use the colored pencils, and I've done some of the embroidery. And, I don't know, I put it aside. I think I put it aside because I got to a bullion stitch. And I said, oh boy, I tried a few times, and I said, I don't know. I can't, I'm going to put this aside because I just can't do it. But I do want to get back to it, because I think it is so pretty, and I'd love to finish this. And I also, this is another thing that I think would be wonderful as the center of a little quilt, a little wall hanging. So that's another reason for me to finish it, right? I had that in another bag, another project bag that I made for myself. This is In this one I used pre-quilted fabric, a double-sided pre-quilted. That's the inside, and of course it has the vinyl. It has the zipper here, and here I decided I wanted to be more like an envelope, so I just created this big flap, and I used cam snaps here. Oh, they're tight. 3 cam snaps along the front here to close it up. What a great way to just store things and keep them clean, and they're cute too. They're kind of fun to make. So my final piece of needlework is a work in progress. Here is a big whip for you. Another bag that I created just for this. Isn't this cute fabric? It's Lynette Anderson's fabric. I've used that in a quilt and loved it. More cam snaps. I bought one of those things to squeeze the cam snap shut, and I just love it so much. I think of excuses and reasons to put snaps on things. This is needlepoint, designed by Barbara Russell, who you needlepointers know, I'm sure will know Barbara Russell. Beautiful hand-painted canvas. And this, of course, if you've watched my portrait quilts video, you know as my buddy Jack. And it's not him, but it's a black lab, and let me tell you, it looks just like him. So when I saw this, I really fell in love with it. It's an exaggeration to say that I've been working on it. I have to say, I have put it aside for quite a while now. There's just so much to do. There's so many things to make that I just haven't gotten back to this. But I'm really feeling this drawback to needlework. I think it's time to put July away and pick up this fellow. When I first started it, I was doing, I had done needlework so many years ago, really as a young girl. I think in high school I started to do needlepoint. And all I did at that point, and all I ever saw, was just continental stitch, back and forth. So when I started to do this, I noticed, all the light green is done, and I know that's hard to see. And it's just continental stitch. But when I started to do it, I found that it wasn't very good coverage. So I reached out to the seller and I said, I thought you'd said to use single strand, but am I doing it wrong because the coverage isn't great? And she said, oh no, use single strand. Well, luckily I was with a group of ladies who do a lot of needlepoint and needlework. And they said, oh no, don't do continental. That's sort of the old-fashioned, like in my young days, that's the old-fashioned way. So they showed me how to do the basket weave. So I think it's called basket weave, where you start in the corner and you work diagonally. Oh, it made a world of difference. So when I pick it back up, that's what I'll be doing. I'm trying to get all the background done first before getting to him, because I just want to get to him and then not do anything else. This was a world that opened up to me. I'd only used DMC threads, and they're fine. They're lovely color saturated threads. But then I found what she sold me here for this kit was this, these beauties. And it's so soft and so beautiful. And I didn't even know any better. I just said, what do I need? They sent me this. It's Impressions by Karen. I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly. Karen, C-A-R-O-N. And it's silk and wool. I think it's 50-50 silk and wool. I could be wrong. But those are all the colors. But, oh, I love them. I'm not sure, I'm a little nervous. Once I use this, will I ever go back to DMC? Well, I have to, because I have enough of it. So. Well, that's my needlework show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like this show, please hit like and subscribe for any future shows. I have a few more up my sleeve, and I have a lot more needlework, and as well as everything else in the pipeline. So thank you so much for watching. And until next time, I hope all of your stitches bring joy.